Hi, we're here. I'm Anne, and you?
I'm Kate Sutter.
Excellent. So we are so glad that you are here. We have been counting down. We hope you were kind of watching the hold slides. We were listening to the music. So my name is Anne Merchant, and I work for the National Academy of Sciences. And Kate?
I work for the National Academy of Sciences LabX, which is a program of the academies.
And so we feel like in the couple of minutes that we have here at the top of this hour that we have to give you a little mini sort of orientation to just say, in case you don't know, that the National Academy of Sciences is a private nonprofit institution in Washington, D.C., where we kind of guide the nation towards good science policy. Doesn't maybe always look like that's happening, especially in times of trouble, but that's what we were built for, and that's what we do every single day. So that's what programs like LabX are built for. So maybe you're not reading all of the big reports from the academies, but you're paying attention to science through fun things like this, where you get to drink when you're doing it. I didn't have the sudden commotion cocktail, but I had a whole bottle to keep me going for tonight. So Kate, why don't you explain a little bit about what's going to happen tonight? I should just say, by the way, that I have not met Kate in person because she has been part of the LabX team only virtually. But this hidden expert, this was her interview. She brought this idea to us. It is her brainchild. This came right out of her imagination and onto our screen. So we are grateful to Kate for this idea.
Oh my God, Anne, do not make me blush. I do have the cocktail, and indeed this was my interview idea, so thanks for that. To explain LabX for a second, LabX, we're a program within the academies, like I said, and we're here to kind of spice up the science. A lot of reports are coming out, and it's, sometimes it's just science, straight up science. We're here to really twist it up. We do events like two scientists walk into a bar, so like what's better than having a drink with a world-renowned scientist? Right? Yep. And also we do game jams. We try to invite everyone and anyone from around the world to get involved with science, kind of use it in their everyday thinking. So that's what we're here for. This is the first of 4 hidden experts, I'm excited to say, one every month for the end of the year. It's something I honestly couldn't have dreamed of, but here we are making it real. And I found maybe the greatest host. His name is Chris Duffy, and I'm going to introduce Chris Duffy here. He's a comedian. He's done podcasts, and he's hilarious. So, Chris, this is you.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm your host, Chris Duffy. Thank you so much to Anne and to Kate and to LabX for having this event here. We are going to have so much fun tonight. I am in my house. You're in your house. We're safely socially distancing. But listen, we're still going to have a great time. We're going to have fun. We're going to have a giant event. This is the beauty of performance in Zoom world, is that you get to now be together, but also at home. You are so comfortable. Many of you are probably wearing pajamas or potentially not even wearing pants at all. That is the dream, to be able to be at a cultural event and not be fully dressed. So I salute all of you, and I drink to all of you there. Also, you didn't even buy a drink. This is your own drinks, and yet you're having one. Isn't that great? I just put water in a fancy glass. I put on a suit for the first time in literally months. So thank you for this excuse. I'm so glad to be here. So tonight, we are going to be doing Hidden Expert. Hidden Expert is a game. It's a storytelling show. It is an interactive experience. So we need you to be a part of it. So here's how this is going to work. You're going to hear 4 stories from incredible storytellers. You are going to try and guess, what is the theme that ties these stories together? What is the secret, the thread that connects them all? Maybe tonight's theme is stories about insects. If not, that would be giving it away already. But maybe that's the connection. You're trying to guess what it is. You're going to put that in, submit your guesses throughout the show, and then you're going to guess who is the scientist who studies the topic related to that theme. So 2 things that are a mystery tonight. Who's the hidden expert, and what is our mystery theme? Throughout the show, as you hear each storyteller, you are able to submit questions that you'd like to ask them to figure out who is our hidden expert. Now, if you ask something like, where did you get your degree from? Where did you get your science degree from as a hidden expert? We're not going to ask them that, right? We're going to select questions that are a little less giving it away. So maybe you might ask something like, what was your favorite subject in school? What's your favorite food? What was the class that you did worst on in high school? You might ask them, what kind of hobbies do you do in your free time? Anything that you think might give you a little bit of a clue as to who is the scientist here, who is the hidden expert. And I'll be reminding you that throughout the show. We're going to have so much fun. We have an incredible lineup of people. And then we're going to get to ask them a bunch of questions and figure out who is the hidden expert. And also, we're going to get to talk to that expert and interview them a little bit at the end of the show. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm not going to tell you their names so you can't Google them. I know some of you were already planning on cheating. I'm not going to do that. Instead, I am going to introduce them with their numbers, and we're going to hear their stories and then ask questions. So let's get started with our first incredible storyteller, Storyteller Number One.
You would think that having survived the death of my 38-year-old partner to complications from the treatment for Hodgkin's lymphoma, that I would be kind of philosophical about the death of my 4-year-old PC laptop from complications due to a virus from downloading adult entertainment. You would think that, but you would be wrong. I mean, perspective is real, emotional perspective, but also it never shows up exactly when you need it. So that's why I was sitting in my living room of my shared unintentional community, you know, the kind of community that New York City forces you into. And usually that living room was so quiet that we nicknamed it Queer Study Hall. But now I was cursing so loud that my annoying therapist roommate came out, and she thought, I guess, I was on the verge of a physical altercation with someone. But it wasn't someone, it was something. And, you know, my laptop had been in a slowdown for a few days, but I kept like Xing through. Now it had all these pop-ups like pop, 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 pop. And I kept Xing through, but it didn't help. And now I just got the blue screen of death, and I was cursing. And she said, oh, is something wrong? Which was, you know, an annoying therapist roommate thing to say. And I didn't feel like talking with her about it, but I did want her to go away. So I explained it was, you know, my computer. And then she said, like a parody of a cartoon therapist or something. Literally, how does that make you feel? So I let out some more obscenities, not, you know, at her at the computer, and she said, oh, you know, it just seems like maybe, is this about something bigger? Because you just really seem, and that was most annoying. That was more annoying than anything else she had said, because it's very annoying when annoying people are correct. So the thing is I hadn't backed up my laptop in a long time, and there were photos on there of Cheryl, photos of Cheryl and I that were not anywhere else, so except for on that inaccessible hard drive. And since Cheryl had died the previous, 18 months previously, I hadn't done anything with those photos. I hadn't sorted them, I hadn't put them in folders, I hadn't shared them. I just put them on the hard drive and left them there, and they just pop up in searches, like my computer would be like, oh, you want to see your tax returns from 3 years ago? How about a photo of you and Cheryl from the same time? It'd be like a grief sucker punch. Now, the photos were not the only part of my partner's life that were crowding me. When Cheryl died, I had to move out really quickly. We weren't legally married. It wasn't legal then, and we're not really wired for that. And so her mom, it legally belonged to her mom. And so it had only been 2 weeks, and I wasn't ready to sort Cheryl's clothes. It was like, her clothes were like her femme dyke armor, and I just wasn't ready. So I threw them into a combination of Cheryl's very stylish suitcases, my unstylish suitcases, and a garbage bag. So I moved them back into the Queer Study Hall, the apartment I mentioned. And the thing is, it's one thing to do that if you live in suburban Illinois, but they filled up my entire 11 by 17 bedroom. And even though it had been 18 months, and even though I could barely go to the bathroom, there was just a little tiny path and I couldn't open the windows. And one time when I was sleeping, a suitcase fell on my bed, narrowly missing my head. But I just didn't feel ready. And what's even more ridiculous is I knew that if I sorted them out, her friends would be thrilled to get them, as would Housing Works. So anyway, about the computer, I called all my coder friends and reminded them, as a nurse, I take all their UTI calls in the middle of the night. And they, one after another, patiently reminded me they weren't that kind of computer people. One person said, just because somebody builds a house doesn't mean they can fix the plumbing, which helped me understand a little bit better. But the last friend I called told me about this, essentially a 900 number that you could call, and for $1.99 a minute, you could get tech help. It's $2 cheaper than the psychic hotline, but I should have just called the psychic hotline for as much help as I got. At the end, the guy was just like, yeah, I think you have a paperweight now. So my final thing was I took the computer to this 18-year-old, we called him a hacker, that worked out of his dad's laundry in the Lower East Side, and it was very sketchy. You just had to hand in the computer and say for fixing, and it was just this very complicated thing. And everyone said oh well, he writes code for viruses, so he's really good at fixing it. Anyway, when he handed back to me, and to his credit, he was not as condescending as I would have been if I had that position at 18 years old. He just said, dude, just, this thing is so old, just let it go. Just move on. So, out of the mouth of babes comes computer fixing and general life advice. And that was also super annoying, because it's annoying when annoying people are right. But some of the photos on the hard drive were gone forever, and so was Cheryl, but pretending I was going to someday get the photos of Cheryl back, that was so exhausting. So, having gotten unintentional but excellent life advice from a 18-year-old stranger, I went home that night and started sorting Cheryl's clothes. And now, also, I only use a Mac, and I only watch my adult entertainment on my phone.
Beautiful story, an incredible story, and also we know we will stay away from Storyteller Number One's phone. We are not going to touch that phone, even if we were in the same room. But also, what a beautiful, incredible story, and a mantra to move forward for this year. It is annoying when annoying people are right. I love that story. And remember, if you have questions for Storyteller Number One that you think will help figure out if they are tonight's hidden expert, put those in the chat. Let's figure out who our hidden expert is. But for now, we have 3 more stories. So let's move to Storyteller Number 2.
The beginning of the year 2020 brought a strong urge for me to spend time with my aging parents in India, and I had decided to listen to my gut and visit them in March. While I now live in San Francisco, I grew up in Pune, a large metropolis in the western part of India, which is where my parents continue to live, in the same apartment building where I spent the first 26 years of my life. Initially, I was scheduled to fly to India from San Francisco on an Air China flight with a layover in Beijing, but something called the coronavirus was spreading across China, and it worried me enough to get myself on a flight through Amsterdam instead. And I thought to myself, it's just a thing in China, right? Amsterdam will be fine. In the 2 weeks I spent in India, we witnessed the world change dramatically. Countries across the world were shutting down. But I could never imagine my country, with a population of 1.3 billion humans, shut down completely. So I continued to enjoy my time there, visiting my favorite bakeries and restaurants, catching up with old friends, going on long walks with my mother. And in the last 2 days, before my departure to go back to San Francisco, the situation in Pune started to change dramatically. The local government announced that all schools and shopping malls would be shut down. So there was anxiety and tension and uncertainty that started to build up immediately. I started to receive calls from my concerned friends and family members. Some suggested I delay my return, but most just wished me well. To help me deal with that uncertainty that lay ahead of me, my friend V, she handed me a tiny cloth pouch bag containing a mauve-colored garnet stone, which I didn't even know was my birthstone. My friend A, I remember, gave me a horseshoe that he had found on a Himalayan trail. And my dear mother, a pious Muslim, she handed me another tiny cloth pouch bag which had Nazrul Muqam, which is a mix of some money, a prayer, and a photo of the leader of the community. And it's considered to keep all the evils away. I remember getting calls from the Fernandez family who sent me prayers from the church. I got prayers from the temple and the mosque, and even an invisible angel was asked for me, especially from up above by a friend. I remember picking up my own good luck charm, a heart-shaped leaf that I had found in my mother-in-law's garden. And even though we took off without much drama from the Mumbai airport, by the time we reached London, we got the news that Mr. Trump did not want any flights from the UK to reach the American lands. So with flight cancellations and a long layover at one of the busiest airports in the world, my search for a quiet and calm space drew me to, somewhat ironically, to the multi-faith prayer room, a 12 by 12 foot room, half of which was carpeted for our Muslim communities to say their prayer on, and the other half which had tables on which Bibles were placed neatly on them. The virus knows no boundaries of immigration, economy, caste, religion, walls, electric fences, or borders of the mind, I thought. It was spreading and spreading and spreading, and was literally forcing us to question our entire being and hold on to anything and everything that gave us hope. The multi-faith prayer room, I remember, felt comfortable and safe in those moments.
Beautiful hope and faith and joy in a 36-hour journey. That's incredible. I would not have come out with such an uplifting message, I am positive, if I had spent 36 hours traveling. But that is beautiful. I feel like the phrase finding hopes in the nooks and crannies of our home, really, that hit me. I'm gonna keep that with me. Thank you so much for a beautiful story. Remember, there are two things you're trying to guess. You're not just trying to guess who is the hidden expert. You're also trying to guess what is the theme of the show? What ties these stories together? So now you've heard two. What do you think the theme could be? You have two more. But if this was a film festival, what would the name of the film festival be? Would it be Videos That Have Music Under Them Film Festival? I mean, that is true, but that would not be the title. So keep that in your head as you watch our next video from Storyteller Number 3.
Hi, so the story that I'm going to share with you today is a moving story. Lots of people have interesting moving stories, so today you get to hear mine. This took place back in 2009, and I was subletting an apartment from one of my classmates. I had recently received the key. It was a Friday night. I'm a night owl, so I figured I would just start moving that night. I rented a Philly car share car, drove to my old apartment, loaded it up with stuff, and drove to my new apartment. My new apartment was a 4-story walk-up, so I loaded my arms with as much as I could carry. I walked up these 4 flights of stairs, and when I got to the door, I was confused because I had a traditional key, but the lock on the door was not a traditional lock. So it was this circle, and I was confused. So eventually one of the neighbors came out and told me that the building had recently been converted to electronic keys. And clearly this happened after my classmate had moved out. So I began to panic a little bit because I'm trying to figure out how will I get this electronic key. It's after hours on a Friday. I have to be out of my apartment that weekend. So I'm just trying to figure out what am I gonna do next. So I drive to the apartment office. Again, it's after hours, but I call their emergency number and I leave a message. So I'm driving back to my apartment, again, just trying to figure out how will I move that weekend? What will happen if I can't move? What will I tell my landlord? And as I'm driving down the street, my phone falls while I'm driving. So I bend down to pick up the phone, and as I bend down, my hand turns and I hit this parked car. So this all happened in the split of a second. I looked down for a moment, and again, I just crashed into this parked car. So it was a quiet neighborhood in West Philly, but the sound of that crash literally woke up the neighborhood. So now people are on their porches, people are in the street, people are coming towards me, and I'm just trying to process what just happened. So this woman approaches me and she tells me that I hit Daniel's car. And I'm like, okay. And she goes off, I'm assuming to tell Daniel. So in that moment, I'm just, a million things are going through my mind. I'm trying to, again, just process what just happened. I'm thinking about, do I have insurance through Philly Car Share? I'm praying, please let Daniel be a warm, kind-hearted person. And during that time, I guess she was ringing Daniel's doorbell. So next thing I know, someone opens the window, looks out, and just shouts, "Stop ringing my effing bell." In that moment, I just cry because I'm like, this can't be Daniel. He's already mad, and he doesn't even know I hit his car yet. So I'm a mess, and this gentleman who was on the street comes up and just tells me, "I'll stay with you." And in that moment, I just appreciated him because I needed support. So eventually Daniel comes down. He actually ends up being the nicest guy. So I'm a mess. He's trying to reassure me, it's okay, don't worry about it, it's just a car. He tells me that the reason that he shouted out of his window like that is because one of his neighbors often comes by to bum a cigarette, and Daniel had just put his child to sleep. So when he heard all that ringing of the doorbell, he was telling his neighbor to get lost. So that message wasn't directed towards me. But we end up talking, the police come, we filed the report. I'm relieved. This all has turned out much better than I could have imagined. But now I'm back to my initial problem, which is, how am I going to move? So one, how will I get this key? Two, I've just destroyed this Toyota Prius. So I'm thinking, does Philly Car Share kick people out of their program? How will I move without a car? So all of these thoughts, again, just swarming through my mind. So I called Philly Car Share. It's late. It's well after midnight at this point. I called their emergency line. I talked to this woman and explained the whole situation to her. She was awesome. She just told me, return the car, get a new one tomorrow. So that's what I did. So I drove this destroyed Toyota Prius 9 miles per hour back to where I got it. The next day I did rent another car. My sister came in town. She helped me move. Everything was great. But I did want to follow up with Daniel. So a couple weeks after the accident, I went to his house. I brought a 12-pack of beer just as a peace offering for destroying his car. Daniel was on his porch and he was really happy to see me. So he told me that his car was deemed totaled. He received $6,000 for it. His girlfriend's father worked for a dealership and found them a car for $1,500. Their old car had been a manual, so only Daniel could drive. The new car was an automatic, so now they both can drive, and they made $4,500. So it was a happy ending for everyone. Thanks for listening.
What an incredible story. That was like a commercial for crashing into parked cars. I love it. Oh my gosh. Amazing. Everyone wins. They made a profit off a parked car getting wrecked into. And also, I love any business model where they're like, did you just destroy one of our cars? Just bring it back and take another out tomorrow. We got more cars, baby. Let's keep these things running. Oh, I love that. I love that story. Spectacular. I really could relate. I had one slow motion car accident once, and it was exactly the same thing where everyone was watching, and it was horrible. So, it's really the shame. It's the shame. You don't want everyone to know you are not functional at doing this driving of cars. I have more to say about that, but we will save it for when we get to ask questions of all of these storytellers. Remember, you can ask questions in the chat. We've already got a lot of great ones. Ask questions that you want us to ask to any of the storytellers whose stories you've heard. Guess about what you think the theme could be. We've already got amazing guesses coming in. Some people have already gotten it. A bunch of them are really close. Keep putting that in. And now our fourth and final story from Storyteller Number 4.
So when I was 4, my brother and my dad and I looked outside of our house and we saw a big fire coming from like a few streets down. So obviously we're like, what's going on? So we go outside. My dad just got a new camera, so the whole family went over a few blocks to see what this fire was about. And we get there and the fire department's there, the whole neighborhood's there checking it out. And apparently the people whose house it was donated it to the fire department. They wanted to clear the land, so they just gave it to the fire department. So the fire department's kind of like moseying around, not really working on putting out the fires. Okay, that's weird, but whatever. So my dad gets his new camera out, takes a few pictures of me and my brother. We go home, forget about it. For a few years probably, we forget about it. And then in 2008, my dad, being a little photographer, he uploads it to this competition that JPEG Magazine is having. It's an emotion capture version of the magazine that they're doing. So he submitted the picture of me because I'm looking like in the corner with this fire behind me. It's funny, I look evil, I look like I started the fire. It's a great picture. So he submits it and it ends up winning. So they print it in the magazine, they give my dad $100. I take the magazine to school. I think it's the coolest thing ever. It's like 2nd grade, the beginning of my fame. So again, that happens, we think it's cool, but not much after that. Then probably in 2010, around iFunny and Facebook starting to become big social media, people like my cousins and my parents' coworkers are like, hey, we just saw this picture of Zoe, this is so weird, did you guys put this out there? How did this get on my feed? And we're like, we have no idea. We posted it on JPEG Magazine, but after that, we completely lost control of it. So all of these people are just sending it to us whenever they see it. People that I'm not close with, people I'm friends with at school are like, hey, this was on my Facebook, how did it get there? We don't know, we don't control it anymore. So that was the beginning. And from then on, we've never really had control of it, but I see it on Instagram, on Twitter, whenever some famous celebrity posts it, someone sends it to me. So that's pretty fun. Besides that, my life is not really that much different. There's definitely been some cool things. I got to go to New York for an interview, and I got to go to LA for a different interview. I think that this was really fun for me just because I get to forget about it a lot since I don't look like that anymore. But when I need to pull it out of my pocket, I definitely still have it there. Yeah, I'm really grateful for it and probably wouldn't change it if I could. I get to do fun things like this also. So yeah, that's that.
So glad to have a viral star here. Incredible. We have the person behind one of the memes. So we're going to ask you, though, to put in any other questions that you want to ask these people. So you have questions for Storyteller 1, Storyteller 2, Storyteller 3, or now Storyteller Number 4 that you think will help determine who is the person who is doing research on our theme. But speaking of themes, now you have heard all 4 stories. So what do you think the theme that ties these 4 stories together is? What is it that would be the common thread in all of these stories? Is it people talking to you direct to camera? Is it that stories that you've watched while you're inside of your house? Is it incredible stories by attractive, intelligent, wonderful people? It is all of those things, but that is not the theme that we are going for. What is the theme of tonight's show? We have some incredible guesses coming in. Still time for you to put in other ones if you want. Someone said, is it memories? Ooh, I love that. Great guess. It is not memories. Is it finding connections through strangers? I like that too. That makes sense. It is not that exactly. Nope. Is it transitions or relocations? Another great guess, whoever put that in. No, it's not that one either though. Is it help from strangers? Messages from unexpected places? Nope. It is none of those. Tonight's theme is Going viral. That's right. Going viral. That virus, it has our iPhones, it has our phones. That virus either has tiny little smartphones or that is an enormous virus. Either way, I am disturbed. That is an incredible graphic, but a terrifying graphic at the same time. Okay, so now you know that the theme for tonight is going viral. So here is what we are trying to figure out now. Our hidden expert is the one of those storytellers who studies, who does research about that theme. Which of our 4 storytellers was the person who studies, who does research, who knows all about, who has a degree on that theme of going viral? So we're going to bring all of our storytellers out and we're going to ask them some of the questions that you asked. And from that, then we're going to try and guess who our hidden expert is. So first of all, thank you all so much for doing this. Thank you for your beautiful stories and thank you for being here. All right. So let's see. First, we have a lot of great questions. For storyteller number 1, now, storyteller number 1, I want to be clear. I do not want you to answer this question, but I just want you to know that one of the first questions that came in was, what was the LabX video you were trying to download? Now, I don't want you to answer that. I just want you to know it was asked.
It's interesting. I always feel like that is such a specific to people's taste, right? Like whatever I like, I guarantee that person doesn't like. So I don't know if they're just looking for ideas, but it's so easily accessible. I feel like somebody could probably find that on their own.
Yeah, and you know what? We'll let them connect with you afterwards, and you can give advice or guidance after that. But a question that I do want you to answer is someone else wants to know, storyteller number 1, what was your favorite subject in high school? If there was one, it's possible there wasn't.
Yeah, I went to like the small Christian high school and I look like this, so high school wasn't awesome for me. I guess maybe lunch.
Lunch,
That's much of a cliche to say. Yeah.
That may very well help people figure this out. I totally believe. Okay, for storyteller number 2, people were latching on to your very long voyage here, 36 hours. One of the first questions we had for you was, what did it feel like to travel for that long?
A combination of patience and lots of food.
Great. And also, people also want to know what brought you to San Francisco in the first place?
Ooh, adventures in life.
Ooh, very, very mysterious. That is perfect for hidden expert. That's a very mysterious answer. That feels like it could be like on a dating profile. I moved here in life. Yeah. Okay. What about for storyteller number 3? What class were you in with the classmate who moved out?
Oh, that's a really good question. Actually, I wasn't in a class with that person. That person was a couple of years ahead of me, so we did not share a class.
Oh, okay. So really just a lot of mystery answers here so far. What class did you share with your classmate? Nice try. The answer was no classes at all. Okay, storyteller number 4. Storyteller number 4, people are wondering, do you speak any other languages?
Yeah, I also speak Chinese, Mandarin.
Interesting. Okay. And another question for you is, how old were you when you became a meme?
I was 4 when the picture was taken and probably 10 when it started going viral.
Okay. For storyteller number 1, what is it that you find most annoying about annoying people? What's the most annoying quality that a person can have?
I think condescension. When somebody's condescending, you know, I'm raised in the Midwest. Like people don't really condescend to children in the Midwest because, you know, like in farm country, you're basically, you know, you're meant for labor. So there's no like, oh, you're just a kid. So I don't have very, very low tolerance for condescension.
Okay, great. Here's a question for everyone, so everyone will get a chance to answer this one. Maybe, I don't know if this is gonna help them figure out who's the hidden expert, but this is a question that's coming from you all in the audience. What do you do to relax? For everyone, so we'll go one at a time. So let's start with storyteller number 1. What's something that you do to relax?
Right now, during the pandemic, I'm making stop motion Lego movies to my stand-up comedy. Like, this is a scene going whitewater rafting, and I really recommend it. It helps you regulate so much. I mean, I know I'm an adult that just showed you toys, but anyway, it works.
I love that. Okay. Storyteller number 2, what do you do to relax? And it's okay if it's okay if you don't have an incredible prop of a Lego stop motion animation.
I don't. I love to go on long walks and listen to birds and observe flowers, and that's what makes me feel relaxed.
Okay, love that. Storyteller number 3.
What makes me feel relaxed? I would say also going for walks. I have a dog, so walking my dog is pretty relaxing. I enjoy bike riding, and then what also I'd say like relaxing, comfort. I love fast food, so McDonald's is like a hug to me. So that's relaxing.
McDonald's is like a hug. I mean, that if they're not using that as a commercial by the end of the night, they are not watching, because that's a pitch right there. Storyteller number 4, what do you do to relax?
I like going on walks on the campus nearby, and I like reading also.
Okay. Storyteller number 4, we have another question for you. Doesn't this kind of feel like a little bit like the dating game where I'm like, and bachelor number 4, what's behind?
It does.
Yeah, but I'm going to keep saying it that way. Storyteller number 4, we have another question for you. Do you still live near where you grew up?
I do. I live a town away.
Wow. Okay. For everyone, are your parents or are your family happy with your career choice? So let's do it in reverse this time. So let's start with 4. And you can be, maybe you don't know, or maybe you want to be vague. That's okay. Storyteller 4, are your parents happy with your career choice?
I would say my parents are happy with my career choice. They're probably watching this right now. This is a little odd, but I think they're pretty proud of me in general.
We're actually getting something in the chat, and they're saying, yes, confirming they are. No problem. Storyteller number 3, are your parents or your family proud of your career choice?
I would agree. Yes, I'd say they are proud of my career choices, but I think honestly I could do anything, and my mother would be very proud. And she's also watching, so.
Oh, listen, honestly, a huge percentage of our audience is just parents watching. Parents watching children is the number 1 demographic we have here. Okay, Storyteller 2, are your parents proud of what your career choice was?
In my 20s, probably not, but now they are.
Okay.
They are.
Storyteller number 1?
I would say, well, first of all, I would say 100% my mom is not watching, but I would say that she has gotten used to my career choice, and that's a good homeostasis. We're okay with that.
Okay, great. Well, listen, we always want to leave a goal for the next show, because there's 3 more of these. So next show, we're going to get your mom watching this show. So that's our goal. Okay, the last question before we're just going to do a raise a hand if this is true. Do any of you storytellers, do any of you play a musical instrument? Raise your hand if you do. Okay, we got a tentative raise there.
No.
The question is, now you've had a chance to ask them some questions. Who do you think is our hidden expert? Who is the person who has a degree and has done research around the topic of going viral? Who do you think it is? A poll is going to pop up, and we want to know, who do you think is tonight's hidden expert? So put that in. Yes, away. We want to see people are putting answers in. That poll should be popping up for you right now. Do you think it is storyteller number 1? Do you think it is storyteller number 2, 3, or 4? I also want to tell you, you're going to find out these people's names, because I know that you want to know more about them. I know you want to hear where you can find more about this Lego stop motion animation. I know you want to see that viral meme. I know you want to hear about these beautiful walks. I know you want to hear what the insurance situation is and how you can have your car get crashed into by storyteller number 3, so you can make a profit and get some beers hand delivered to your house. We are putting those in right now, and we are tabulating. Looks like a lot of people, there's a split here, but our real storyteller, the storyteller who is tonight's hidden expert, is storyteller number 3. So you're our hidden expert. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Nadine Riddick, and I'm really happy to be here tonight.
And Dr. Riddick, we're going to talk to you in just a little bit, and we're going to ask We're going to ask you a bunch of questions. So also, if you have questions for someone who studies viruses, if you have questions for our virologist, Dr. Nadine Riddick, put those in the chat. We are going to ask her those questions later. But first, let's find out a little bit more about our other storytellers. So first of all, we have Kelly. And here are some fun facts about Kelly. Kelly is a stand-up comic. She is a nurse, an author, a storyteller, but also, Kelly, you were also once a nun, and we have a photo of that.
Oh, yeah, there, that's me as a nun, sure enough. I look exactly the same, right? I think I look exactly the same.
I think it's just an outfit change, and that's it. You have lived many lives, Kelly. Really, you've lived many lives.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. But I feel like from going to from nun to queer nurse, that's not even really a right-hand turn. That's pretty much just the conclusion.
Yes. I love that. And I want to acknowledge that you, as a nurse, you of course are an expert. You are just not the virologist expert, but you are an expert. So in fact, many of our storytellers tonight are experts, just not in this particular field. But Kelly, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your incredible story. And thank you for being here. And I want to encourage everyone to check out your hilarious comedy and more about you, Kelly Gunn. So we're going to have more info on all of those people on our website, labx.org. But let's find out about storyteller number 2, who is Yakuta Punavala. And you are the San Francisco Community Programs Manager for the Parks Conservancy. Now, we already know that you have that you love to hike and you love flowers, but you have also trekked the Himalayas in northern India and Nepal, and I believe we have a photo of that as well. That is so epic. Look at this photo. Everything about that is that photo is in the museum as great explorers of the 20th and 21st. It's incredible. Do you find ways to get out into nature a lot while you're around San Francisco?
Mm-hmm. Every day.
Incredible. And you also have a twin brother.
I have a twin brother. Yes.
Does your twin brother also like hiking, or is it just you?
We are very different people.
I love that. Okay. And then our last storyteller who's not the hidden expert is Zoe Roth. Zoe, you are Disaster Girl. We got to see that meme. You've seen it online. Look at that. You recognize it? That's a celebrity right there. Zoe, now we're going back to you. Zoe, can you just do us a favor and just give us a little bit of the famous face for just a moment? Yeah, let's all try and do that just for a second.
In the corner of the screen.
Yeah, okay, we got it. Zoe, it's got to be an interesting thing that so many people in the world know you for that viral moment that you had when you were just a little kid. But now you are a student and you have been to 45 out of 50 states. And you also, you speak Chinese, like you told us. So you are incredibly talented already. And a lot of the questions we got were about how old you are and whether you're done with your education. You are not yet done with your education, right?
No, I'm a junior at UNC right now.
And what are you studying?
I'm studying international relations and Chinese.
Cool. Amazing. Well, I want to thank all of our storytellers, but let's talk to our hidden expert a little bit. So thank you all so much. And now let's get into a conversation with Dr. Nadine Riddick. So, a lot of people are asking exactly how your story connects to going viral. Now, I would say there's a lot of answers on this one. Do you want to say how you think it connects to going viral, other than the fact that you're literally a virologist? I have some ideas in my own.
Yeah. So my story. Yeah. So my story, so the going viral really came from just kind of the situation just exploded and kind of went out of control. So it's it started with, okay, I have this one problem about moving, and then I hit this car, and then people are pouring into the street. So kind of the whole situation went viral.
Yeah, it started with one person seeing you, and then all of a sudden the whole community was infected with knowledge of your shame. That feels like that's the answer. And listen, if you're at home and you're thinking, that doesn't seem like it was going viral, guess what? She's a virologist. So, oh, okay, there we go. Nadine, a lot of people have a lot of questions for you. And if you have other questions, please put those in right now. But as we talk to you about viruses, and this is obviously a time where this is on everyone's mind. So I was wondering, first of all, just what is it that you are doing every day as a person who has studied this? How do you live your life? What are the things that are important for all of us to learn from you? Because I just feel like I need some guidance, and I know we all.
No, that's a great question. So one, I'll just give a little bit of background. So my training is in virology. I studied HIV, or a virus really closely related to it. So what's called SIV, simian immunodeficiency virus, or monkey version of HIV. And yeah, so I kind of studied that virus for about 10 years. I loved it. And then I've also gone into education. So kind of what I do now, just to try to stay safe, just within this whole pandemic landscape that we're living in, is really the key things that people have been mentioning for a long time. So definitely social distancing, washing your hands, wearing a mask. So all of the things that we've kind of heard ever since March. And I can kind of go into more about why each of those things are important if people are interested in hearing that. But those are kind of things that I've been doing. So my husband and I really kind of hunkering down, just trying to do things outside. So meeting up with friends outside, going on hikes, doing things that we can do while still staying socially distant.
So I imagine that obviously it's quite an intense time to be a virologist, and it's an intense time for everyone. But I also imagine that people who before were like, what is it that you do? Now are like, oh, you have a very important job. Have you decided that, like, have you gotten a different reaction from friends and family than you used to get, where now people are like, thank you for getting your PhD?
No, so I will say, I actually, like I mentioned before, I studied virology. I trained as a grad student, as a postdoc, so 10 years studying this virus. I actually haven't been working in the lab for about 4 years now. And that's actually interesting too. So people a lot of times think about scientists as kind of being exclusively in the lab, but scientists exist in all spaces. So kind of in the lab, I've also been an educator. So I was teaching at American University. I teach at higher education and prison programs as well. I've had a fellowship in the government. So scientists are in all these different spaces. My current position, I actually just started a new role where I'm a biology content developer with HHMI, so Howard Hughes Medical Institute, their biointeractive program. And this is a great way where really scientists and educators are kind of coming together and really partnering with educators to create curriculum for students. So I'd say that I think that people, my family's always kind of known what I do because I've been talking about it for a very long time, but I think in general, the public has kind of appreciated virologists a little bit more. I mean, we see Dr. Fauci on the computer, we kind of hear about all these different people. So I think the field of virology has definitely gotten more notice recently.
We're getting a lot of incredible questions. So I want to just ask you a couple of rapid fire ones, and then we'll have a couple longer answers as well. But just rapid fire questions. Do viruses have a smell?
Not that I know of. So again, really, I have never looked in the literature to see if there is a scent associated with viruses. I would say no, rapid fire.
You're not like holding up the slides or the Petri dishes and just like taking a big whiff every time.
No. Bacteria have a smell. Viruses, I don't think so.
Okay. Are there any beneficial viruses? I'm reading you quote the verbatim one. Are there any beneficial viruses? I'm thinking like Spider-Man, or are they all bad? Now, just to be, I believe that it was the radioactive spider, not a virus, but maybe it was a virus within the spider. I thought it was just the spider itself, but let's still, what do you think?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. So I'd say, so again, if we were thinking about bacteria, there's definitely good bacteria and bad bacteria. When it comes to virus, I'd say there aren't necessarily good viruses. So there aren't necessarily good viruses. The thing that's unique about viruses is they need a host. So they have to live in something, but sometimes they can live in a host and they don't actually make that host sick. So in that case, it's kind of, the virus wins, the host wins, no one's really being harmed. I'd say a benefit to viruses in general is kind of thinking about vaccine development or things like that, where we're using viruses as vehicles to do other things. So we've kind of used them in good ways, but them themselves, I don't know if they're good.
Okay, another quick question. Dr. Riddick, have you found a mask that doesn't fog up your glasses?
So I haven't, but I know a life hack. So I read that if you put on a mask and you put like medical tape right at the top of the mask, then that won't fog your glasses. I haven't tried it, but you should try it.
Amazing. I thought that was for sure a joke question, but you had a real practical answer. That's okay. Here's a serious question that I'm curious. What's the most interesting virus that you know of, and why?
So I'm biased. So like I mentioned before, I studied SIV for 10 years. So that virus is just kind of near and dear to my heart. I really studied how that virus enters cells. So I was interested in the proteins that are on cells that kind of like the virus kind of latches onto and allows the virus to get inside. So yeah, so that would definitely be my virus of choice.
Is there a simian version of COVID?
That's a great question. So that's an excellent question. So coronaviruses, so again, everybody has been hearing lots and lots about coronaviruses. Coronaviruses, it's actually a family of viruses. So there's many different types of coronaviruses and they infect mammals. So they do infect non-human primates, but I don't know if there's any that like specifically infect monkeys.
Okay. Someone is asking, why is COVID so different from the flu and other viruses? Is it that so many people are asymptomatic, or what is it that makes it so different?
That makes it so different from the flu? So that's a great question as well. The thing with COVID, so one, I'd say, like I mentioned, there's a family of coronaviruses. The one that we're experiencing now in this pandemic is, so if you guys remember back in March, they were kind of calling it the novel coronavirus. Basically, it's a new strain of coronavirus and we don't know much about it. So it's similar to flu in the sense that it infects the same types of cells. So thinking about our respiratory system, our nasal passages, but then there's just so many things that we don't know. So there's people that kind of have mild symptoms. There's people that have moderate symptoms. There's people that have severe symptoms that can cause like chronic diseases. And again, we're still in the process of studying all of that. And we don't really see that with the flu. So they definitely differ in that way.
How do viruses get transmitted in the air? Is it possible without any water particles?
That's an excellent question. So again, the droplets that the virus is on are like microscopic. So I believe that the droplets are still involved. I would say that the droplets are still kind of involved in that process, but not droplets in the sense of like water droplets that I can actually see, but these kind of microscopic droplets that the viruses can kind of shuttle around on. But I don't know if they can do it some other way.
We have just a few more questions for you. And I just want to thank you because I know that I am so hungry for like actual scientists who are saying it clearly, but also understandably and fact-based. And it's just, I'm so grateful for everything you're saying. Thank you. Thank you for not like yelling at me and then saying something that is totally factually inaccurate. I love that this is how we're getting our information right now. Very serious question. Someone is asking, can we expect more pandemic type viruses in the future?
Another great question. So like I mentioned before, so I studied SIV. Something that I didn't mention, there's basically different, so animals can react differently to viruses. So there are some animals that don't get sick, some that do get sick. The animals that don't get sick, we kind of refer to them as being the natural reservoir. So bats actually are really good natural reservoir. They have lots of different viruses that infect bats and the bats are fine. But when they jump from animal to human, that's when we're kind of seeing these different issues. So it's likely that other viruses that just haven't entered the human population yet, that could potentially happen.
So this is kind of going back to that Spider-Man question. Now it's like, if you wanted to be one superhero right now, you want to be Batman. Because you can get the virus and it's not going to do anything to you.
That is a good point.
You want to be the Batman. Okay, listen, final question. I love this question. I love that this person heard everything that you've been saying, heard your research, and still was like, my question is about narrative conclusions, which is, how did you get into the apartment in the end?
That is an excellent question.
It was electronic and it was the weekend. How did you solve the problem, Dr. Riddick?
It's actually really funny. So I've been thinking back, and that night was just like so traumatic that certain things I have just blocked out. So I don't actually remember getting the key, but I had to have, because my sister came the next day and we moved, and I even asked her. So it's like, we moved. So I think that that emergency number I called, they must have called me back, and I eventually got that electronic key, but I did move the next day. So I got the key somehow.
Listen, I want to say, I know this isn't true, but just in my heart, the answer is that Daniel was the landlord. Like, also, here's an electronic key. I heard you're moving into my building.
Right. Once I gave him the beer.
That's my belief in my heart. That's what I'm taking with me. Well, Dr. Nadine Riddick, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for talking with us. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your story. If people want to hear more from you, which I'm sure they're going to, we have put your website and your social up there so that people can find you and find out more about you. and your research, and they can contact you. And I think you'd be open to answering questions and connecting with people.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And now I'm going to just wrap up the show. So Nadine, thank you again, and have a wonderful night and stay safe.
You too. Thank you.
So that has been the first Hidden Expert. We are going to have another and another and another. It is a monthly event for the next 3 months. Next one is October 28th. You can find out more information about it at labx.org. We are going to have new theme, a new set of storytellers, a new cocktail even. We're going to have new questions from you. We're going to have incredible times. Thank you all so much for being here, for letting us into your homes. Thanks for asking incredible questions. Thanks for watching these videos. Please wear your mask, socially distance. Don't forget the keys. And if you crash into the car, then later on show up with a case of beer. We really appreciate you being here. I'm so glad that I got to spend tonight with you. Thanks for being at Hidden Expert. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.